Let's cut straight to it. First of all, thank you very much for giving us some of your time on Good Friday, Mr. Mkiva.
Pleasure is mine.
Where does this come from then? It's 18 days before elections, and quite rightfully, people might be a little bit suspicious of this decision.
Suspicious and superstitious. Well, for a long period of time, Nick, we as the Congress of Traditional Leaders have been pleading and actually making a demand to the ruling party as well as the government to release the king, because from the day one, we never believed that justice was done in the manner in which he was convicted, because of the contradictions of our society, wherein we've got two sets of justice systems, so to say. We've got the traditional courts, we've got the courts that employ Roman, Dutch, and English common law. So the king, as a judicial officer who presides over the cases in his regional court, out of that, something went wayward, which led to him being convicted by being taken through a different court system, which found him to have erred in terms of justice.
Well, we'll look at those charges that he was found guilty of and have you maybe look at the merits of that argument that you put forward. But I just want to reiterate, I mean, 18 days, it's less than 500 hours until we vote.
Yeah.
It seems as though this might be some sort of attempt to secure the vote of the AbaThembu. I'm not saying that Contralesa went out and threatened, but it seems to me that if you've made this plea for a long time, why is it only coming now to the fore with hours to go until South Africa votes?
Well, I think it's reasonable for people to be suspicious because we're 18 days away from the election. But the fact of the matter is that at every opportunity where we met with the leadership of the ANC as well as government, we have always put pressure on them to say that this is a matter that you need to take into consideration. And from where we stand, we think that we have put a compelling case to ensure that they actually adhere to our demand. So the fact that the elections are around the corner for us is neither here nor there, because the application for pardoning the king was actually logged in 2018. So because government works in a manner that is very bureaucratic, we think that it was delayed. We were hoping, for instance, that the king was going to be released before the December holidays last year. To our disappointment, that did not happen. But 4 or 5 months later, the Minister of Justice has finally made a recommendation to the President, and we hope and think that the President should indeed approve that recommendation.
We all know that King Dalindyebo had a very strained relationship with the former head of state, President Jacob Zuma. They were often involved in verbal spats. And one time I remember very distinctly when King Dalindyebo joined the Democratic Alliance, he said that Jacob Zuma should face the law and essentially stop dodging charges of corruption and basically thinking that he's better than normal people of South Africa. What is the king doing here? I mean, what message is being sent out here? Is the king above the law? Is the king better than the South African legal system that all South Africans are supposed to be subjected to?
Well, let me start off by saying that King Buyelekhaya Dalindyebo is an outspoken king. He has always been outspoken, even. That's why he went to exile. He grew up in exile, where he followed his father, who passed on in exile. He became a soldier of the revolution. He came back. He became part of the new dispensation, being a member of the legislature. So he has always been very foregrounded. But the point that you are raising, whether the kings are above the law or what, no kings are above the law. But the fact of the matter is that the kings are the permanent members of the state. And as permanent members of the state, they are the highest leaders in the state. They're even above the president in terms of their standing in society. This is something that we ought to educate the South Africans about, because we have not been given an opportunity to do that. We need to be given that platform to actually acquaint, the broader sections of our society so that they can be fully acquainted and fully informed of how the structure and the hierarchy of the institution of traditional leadership is. The reason why we call South Africa a republic of a special type is that we've got the elections, national elections, provincial elections, but we also have kingships within this republic, which make us a very unique country.
Mr. Mkiva, we have time for one more question. I mean, just running through what the king has been convicted of: arson, kidnapping, assault. He was cleared of culpable homicide charges, but this relates to the disciplining of his subjects in the mid-90s. It was a process that saw him go to jail at the end of 2015. He spent 3 years.
Yeah.
And my question to you is, I mean, Injabulo Ndlovu and Nolubabu Nomsuka may not be names that you're familiar with, but they spent more time in jail clearing their names for crimes that they did not commit than the king has actually spent behind bars. So, I mean, is that fair? I understand that you've said that the king is a permanent head of state, but South Africans watching at home, are they supposed to come to terms with the fact that perhaps at the end of the day, kings in South Africa are going to be dealt with in a different manner than other South Africans?
No, that's not what we are suggesting whatsoever. We are Africans. We believe that there should be justice for everybody. We believe that actually the justice system as it is now, it does not employ even a situation of a restorative justice system, which is what we think we ought to have as a country. So we are saying that the cases that you are highlighting, if there was misjustice or a misapplication of justice, in that instance, then there has to be consequences, and consequence management must kick in so that corrective measures are taken. Insofar as suggesting that there should be special dispensation for kings, yes, there must be. We are saying that informed by a history of our struggle, as well as the experience of our people as to what they went through in colonization. You will remember that prison is not an African instrument. It's an instrument that came as a result of coloniality. And who were the first victims of prisons and jails? They were kings, senior traditional leaders, and royalty in general, because those were the people who were leadership at that time. And therefore, this thing called prison was tested on them, whether he could work in Africa or not. And therefore, we're saying, in a post-colonial South Africa, you can't use that instrument to a king, for that matter. We were even saying to the ANC leadership, if you felt so strongly to the government, if the government felt so strong that the king needed to be punished, you should have even considered house arrest or employ other creative ways of punishing him, but not use a colonial instrument.
Mr. Mkiva, we're going to have to leave it at that. Time running against us. That is the Contralesa General Secretary, Zolani Mkiva, joining us in the NCA to discuss the prospect of a pardon for AbaThembu King Buyelekhaya Dalindyebo.